everybody, and thanks for joining me today. So I did finish that 7th pass since last time and have made a fair bit of progress since then. Started the 8th pass and got quite a bit done since then. Like over 1,600 stitches, I believe. So I have been very happy with the progress I've made there. It's been not very confetti heavy, so I have been able to really motor right along. And even the days I'm working, I get a 2-hour lunch instead of just a 1 hour, so that gives me some stitching time even if I'm working most of the day. I don't really stitch in the evenings, just because I prefer natural light as much as possible to work from. I do have a crafting lamp for backup, but natural light is, like I say, what I like to work on. And in the evenings, my husband and I usually watch TV together, and we do it downstairs where there is no natural light at all. Yeah, because he made it, oh my gosh, we are not off to a good start with a knot. What piece of junk. Oh my goodness. So when we renovated, he basically made us like a theater room because we have like a huge TV. It's like 70 inches or something. We got it on sale because it was the last year's model right before they were clearing out at like the end of the year or something like that. And it had never been used, so we got it for like half the price or something ridiculous. So anyway, he built the entertainment system around that, and it's totally dark in there. He took the window out of that room. We just have a little escape hatch he left in case of fire. But there's no glass. It's covered with like, I guess you would call it a piece of wood or something, and you can unlatch it to escape, like I said, in case of in the unlikely event of the case of a fire. You could still escape that room, but it doesn't obviously allow any light in that room, so because he made it to be like you're in a movie theater. There is lights in there, but they dim, and we turn them down when we're watching TV. So if I do crafts in front of the TV, it's generally knitting because I can do those without looking. I do have one of those little craft lamps that like they go around your neck, but I mainly only use that for working a little bit on when I'm filling in my Ocarina of Time piece, the black background. I add a thread, try to add a thread every evening, and so that's only for a few minutes, so I don't mind it, and it's nothing complicated because I've outlined that, so I don't have to do careful counting or looking back and forth between my work and a pattern, so that I don't mind. But if I was to work on, say, this, I don't want to do it down there where I can't see it very well and give myself eye strain, which would lead to headaches, and that's just no fun. But anyway, long-winded way to say I didn't think I would get any stitching time during my work days, but because I get a 2-hour for lunch, I managed to put in some, usually over 100 stitches on those days, so that's something. I will drive home from work, I have my lunch, and then I have just over an hour usually left before I have to drive back to be on time, so it works out. Actually, I think what I might do here is fill all this in and come back across and cross it on my way back up. That's what I think I will do. So my 2 full days of work, I do 7 hours instead of 8, which I'm fine with. It's nice having that bigger break in the middle of the day. I'm definitely not complaining. I bought some frozen meals for those couple of nights that I work the full day, so my husband can just stick them in the oven and it's ready when I get home. Because he doesn't really cook. He basically hasn't cooked since we got married. Because I had one week, our meal kits arrived, and I asked if he could cook one of them, but they forgot to include the recipe card, and because he doesn't have the login credentials for our meal subscription service, he wasn't able to get the recipe, because they don't want you to have access to the recipe unless you're paying them, understandably, but kind of frustrating. So, because like I said, they forgot to include the instructions for the one dish that I wanted him to make, because it was a hot day and I had 2 recipes that require you to use the oven and one that was cooked entirely on the stovetop, so I asked him to make the one that was on the stovetop so it wouldn't heat the house up so much, but that was of course the one they forgot to include the instructions for. So in the end I just said, okay, fine. He said, well, I'll help you when you get home when we cook it. So he did the prep work. So it wasn't too bad. But I said, yeah, from now on, I'm going to just buy some lasagnas and meat pies and things like that. And they're usually good for a couple of nights for us, so it works, because I work 3 days in a row. 2 are full days. The third is a half day. So just have him put one in on the first day. We eat the leftovers the second day. The third day I don't mind cooking because I only work until noon on that day, so it's no big deal. I have not dug out that Fitbit smartwatch, whatever it was that they gave us when we bought our son's car. I'm going to have to look for it, because I said I'm curious to see how much steps I get with my work, since I can't carry my phone around to get my steps, because that's generally how I have been recording it up until now. But while I'm working, my phone pretty much stays in my purse because I'm working. So it does not get carried around. I'm not like my husband has a belt holster, and that's how he carries his phone, so he doesn't need, if he wanted to measure his steps, it has a free pedometer app on it. It can do that, but mine cannot. I did break down and buy myself a fanny pack, but I don't feel like wearing that every day. It's just for like when I go bike riding or something. That way I can safely carry my phone and keys without worrying about them falling out of pockets, because definitely don't want that. All right, so I'm working on the fence post is here at the fence. So there's kind of strips of color that go across, because I believe that's the cross piece for the fence post. And the peahen's tail is going to kind of extend into covering it up a little bit on the right hand side. So I'm kind of working up to where her tail feathers start, but I'm not going to work them until I move the whole thing over again. As I often say, when the colors change because it's a different thing that's being stitched, is usually where I make my cutoff point. It just kind of makes sense to do it there. Then I have fewer live needles and such to deal with at one time. Ooh. Oh, pardon me. Getting used to working again. But like I said, it's not too difficult. And it It's just busy enough that the time really flies by. There's really no time to get bored, so that is nice. I don't mind that, as long as it's not crazy, overwhelming busy. Because I worked in a newspaper office before, and we would have production week, because it was a monthly edition, and where it was just totally run off your feet, nuts, and then a couple of dead weeks. And then I said it was kind of frustrating, because if you could spread the work out over the whole month, it would be fine, but instead it was always, like I said, 4 weeks worth of work crammed into about 2 to 3 weeks, and then nothing. So and I had to deal with 7 phone lines at that job. There were, because they had one publication was a newspaper and one publication was a magazine, and then they had a toll-free number for the office that was for US and Canada, I believe, that they used for either publication. So it wasn't just a matter of picking up the phone, you had to know which publication name to answer. And I said, of course, the 1 or 2 times that I messed up and said the wrong one, people will be like, wait, what are you saying? And it's like, yeah, the one time people were paying attention and listening was the one time I screwed it up. It's funny though, I still have to catch myself sometimes at other jobs not answering it with my old job name, because that was my first office job and I did it for so long that, yeah, I think I could answer the phone with it in my sleep. So I'm kind of working down to around this, where this band of color is, and including this band, the top of it, and then I'll start working the next band. We'll see how far I decide to go along. It really depends. Put that there. And I actually did start at 0 today with my stitch count, which I don't always do. I think what I might actually do is park this back over at this end of the row of stitches and sort of work from the left-hand side over to the right rather than the other way around. And we'll kind of use a combination of the two. And you will see, I probably will put up a pretty good number today because there are not a lot of colors here. It's only about 3 or 4. Those spots tend to go quite quickly. There was some flowers right up at the beginning of this pass, but not a lot of colors in them. I think because they're kind of in shadow, so they really stitched up quick. Okay, I think I may sort of stitch each of these mini rows as I go for now. So sometimes I will do what I did earlier, which was sort of stitch all the top legs and cross them all coming back up. Sometimes I'll do this. Either one works. I don't really have firm rules on which I decide to do. It just whatever I feel like doing. I saw in Heaven and Earth Designs, they announced that the Precious Moments collection that they have charted will be retired end of August. So if you've got any of those on your wish list, then you should hop on over and get them before they're gone. I believe they said they will be retired on the 30th of August, so not even the 31st. So if you want them, don't dawdle. They had a sale earlier this month, which I forgot to mention, but I snagged that one I was talking about, the Beacon of Hope. I took the plunge and I bought it. Will I actually stitch it? I don't know, but unfortunately, very sad news. Bob passed away, and they had a sale. They always had a sale for his birthday every year, and to honor him, they decided to continue that tradition. And I know they've been dealing with, there was a GoFundMe. I'm not sure if it's still active, but I did contribute a bit to it, but also then bought a pattern. That'll help them out a bit too, right? So yeah, very sad news, unfortunately. It's been a lot of loss for them in the last year. So there is that. Like I said, the Precious Moments is being retired, but also if you were thinking of buying a pattern, that would sort of help them out too during this time. As far as I know, I've read they are ending the material packs, but they said they do plan to continue the diamond painting canvases. I believe they come pre-stamped with whatever the pattern is that you want. I'm not sure if they come with the glue included or not, because I've never done one, so maybe someone who has can chime in. But they said they are planning to continue those, and obviously continuing to do charting. They, as far as I know as well, they will not be doing accessories anymore because Bob was the one who made them. So needle threaders and those, treasure those, because they said there will not be any more. He was the one who made and assembled all of them. So my thoughts are with the family during their tough time. Anyway, on a happier note, my niece and her husband of just over a year stopped by to pick up. We brought back a bunch of stuff from my father-in-law's house for them. As I've mentioned before, my mother-in-law had a lot of stuff, and they have been decluttering it and distributing it among the kids and grandkids. So we had a few boxes of things for her, and it was definitely nice to see her again. She and her husband are probably buying their first house soon, which is very exciting for them. They're buying, I believe, her grandmother's house. Grandmother's and grandfather's house, so they're giving them a really good deal on it. But I believe they're downsizing because obviously they're getting on in years, and it's maintaining a property gets harder and harder the older you get. My father-in-law is not planning on selling yet. He said maybe, but no rush for now, which I can understand. As I've mentioned before, my mother-in-law passed away end of 2023. I don't think I would be eager to leave the home I shared with my spouse either. And fortunately, he doesn't need to at the moment. So he said at some point he does plan to downsize, as it is quite a large home for him. My husband's sister and her wife were living with him for over a year until they got their own place, but it was really good. It gave them a place to stay and meant that he wasn't all by himself, which can be very hard, of course, after a loss like that. So he still has a couple guinea pigs. They were the ones who got us started on guinea pigs. We had one for a while. She passed away actually earlier in 2023. And I have not had the heart to get another. I still miss her. She was a sweet thing. Oh, we never really planned to have a guinea pig. It was sort of, she was a rescue who came into our home temporarily, you know, in quotes, and never left, as it often happens, right? So I have two threads here. One I'm going to kind of go across along the bottom, and one I'm going to snake back and forth along the top. But anyway, he had a couple of the really long-haired guinea pigs. They did let me pet their heads a little bit, a couple of times while they were eating. They're very skittish little creatures. They have to really trust you before they let you pick them up and stuff. My sister-in-law, who lived with us for a while, she's kind of the guinea pig whisperer, so she was the only one who could pick Buster up for the first while, few months that she was with us. Once she got used to us, then she let the rest of us pick her up, but yeah, she brought home a runt from the, she worked at the pet store in town, and there was a runt of the litter that his litter mates were quite mean to him and wouldn't let him eat, and they bit his fur out too, poor little thing. She thought maybe he was what they call the werewolf skinny pig, which is where they don't have a lot of fur, but it turned out that no, it was just because the poor little thing was bullied. Once she took him in and she hand-fed him and such until he recovered. His fur grew in all thick and glossy. You would never know he was a runt. He was beautiful after she got through nurturing him. He would put his paws up on the cage and he had little rolls around his arms. He was well fed. Yeah, I love guinea pigs. The sad thing is they don't really live that long. Like longer than hamsters, but 6 to 8 years. It's never long enough, right? Alright, so I often too, when it's a skinny line of stitches like this, which are just 1 stitch wide, I tend to like to cross as I go. I just find when I don't, they look a little messier for some reason. I don't know why. I guess the nature of the way the threads are pulling across the back, but so I'm not someone who crosses every X as they go. I know some people prefer to do it that way. I don't, but in some places I will. Yeah, some guinea pigs are patient enough they let you dress them up too. I know I saw when there was New Zealand, they had a little guinea pig who was used to teach, like he was a little mascot used to teach kids about like road safety and stuff. It was pretty cute. So they would dress him up like a crossing guard. It was adorable. Oh, actually, I'm going to do those as well. Carry this thread back up, crossing as I go. Now that one ended up, when I did that pin stitch, I didn't do it quite perfect. But that's okay. I'm going to be stitching over it with the same color or one that's very similar, so it should not be noticeable. I'm going to take a look how long this strand I have parked here is. Oh, it's not long at all. Yeah. It's only enough for like one stitch, so I will plan accordingly. When I used to stitch and leave gaps, I really hated these sort of, I called them checkerboard kind of sections, where you would have it all alternating kind of between two colors, kind of interwoven together, and I hated that. But now that I stitch without leaving gaps, I find it less laborious, I guess might be the word I'm looking for. There's probably a better word I'm thinking of, but it will not come to mind right now. To need to get some new clamps for my Q-snap here. This stuff doesn't seem to want to stay quite as taut anymore. So they're losing their grip a bit, I think. I did those. Now I will finish carrying this one upwards. So I'm thinking hitting 80% shouldn't be a problem. I might even manage 8,000 this month, which I wasn't expecting to, given that I started working again, even part-time, but it could be because, like I said, this has not been very, very confetti heavy, so that has helped. The real test will be when I get back to a confetti heavy portions of the pattern, because that is coming up in a bit in the peahen's tail, I think, but not as much. I think most of this pass is going to be a lot of big blocks. We've got the big pink flowers there coming up as well. So we will see. I am thinking it may be possible for me to finish this 8th pass by the end of the year, so by end of December. We will see. It would be nice if I did, because the pass is 33,000 stitches for this, and then the last pass is a little bit less. It's just under 32,000, so not by a lot. Because the last pass is 58 rows high rather than 60. We just started watching Squid Game on Netflix. That is kind of a messed up show, but we're enjoying it. I do like that they dubbed the English on top, because as I say, I like to watch with subtitles on, but as a backup, I don't generally watch foreign language stuff that is subtitled, and that's entirely on me and my laziness. I blame it on nothing else. It's because I generally don't do one thing at a time. If I'm watching TV, I'm also stitching, and so I can't be looking at the screen without looking away, kind of thing. Whereas if I'm watching something that's in English audio and then has subtitles as a backup, it's when I miss a word, I'll kind of glance up and look, and usually can catch it in time. There was the series Shogun, which was a historical Japanese story. I believe it was about samurai, but unfortunately I didn't realize it was almost entirely in Japanese, and I said I'd like to watch it, but my my attention span won't let me, and that's entirely my fault. I know a lot of people do not like overdubbed material, but that does not bother me. I prefer it. It's kind of frustrating because on some of the streaming platforms too, they won't tell you what audio the audio is. So they'll have English for the description and even the name and everything, and you'll have no idea that it's in Russian or something until you try to start watching, and it's like, oh. Disney Plus is really bad for that. Like on Netflix, I find if I click on the more information, it will tell you what audio languages it's in and such. And I think Prime does too, but for some reason Disney's not good at that. So I often end up looking it up on IMDb before starting something if it looks like it's probably Korean or some other language that I do not speak. Goodness, that is kind of twisty, isn't it? Right at the end there, yeah. I will just... There we are. Separated the strands so they weren't twisting on each other. It was funny though, when I was a kid on a basic cable package, dating myself here, and Canadian, and we have two official languages, English and French. And so the basic cable package would include a French language station, but a lot of the programs they had were originally in English and then dubbed. But I was a little kid, so I didn't know that it was dubbed on top. And so I remember when I was, I think, 6 or something, and I asked my dad, how can French people talk when their mouths aren't moving? Because a lot of times saying the same thing in French takes more words than saying it in English. Yeah. So when they dub it, they have to kind of fit it as best they can, but that means the character's mouth is often not moving at the same time as the character is speaking because of the dub. But I didn't realize it was dubbed, so my dad had a good laugh about that one. Oh, I went and got a new thread, and actually I did have that one out. Silly me. So growing up, French was channel 7. And it was that we lived in multiple places. We moved a lot when I was growing up. And video games, you had to be on channel 3 or 4 on your TV to make them work. And, or your VCR. And then channel 2 was the listings. Channel 1 was always fuzz, static. And channel 7 was always French. And that was, somebody said, something that has gone away because technology changed. And I said, oh, the colored bars on your TV and that sound they would make when they would go off air. Yeah. Or sometimes it would go to static, but yeah, sometimes it would make that. It was a really awful kind of almost throbby noise. It was terrible. Most stations now, because we have fiber optic TV. We had satellite for a while. Now we have fiber optic. And most stations now are 24 hours. There's 1 or 2 that sign off for an hour. And my husband said it's probably broadcast rules. If you broadcast 24/7, you probably need to pay more for your license versus if you're off air for some of it, even if it's just an hour. So they'll go off air at like 3 or 4 in the morning or something. But it's pretty rare, I find. Most stations are on 24/7. Of course, nowadays people stream everything, so we cheaped out and got the ones that still include the ads because, like I said, we're cheap. You save almost half the price, so I'm willing to watch ads. Well, I said it's kind of irritating because I find they have just as many or sometimes more ads than the ones that are completely free with ads. Like Tubi is free with ads. Pluto TV is free with ads. And I swear they have fewer commercial breaks than Disney Plus or Netflix with ads. Oh well. Oh, goodness me. I was very sad. They canceled Resident Alien, which we had been enjoying so much. It's in its 4th and now last season. And it was so funny. We absolutely loved it. It's Alan Tudyk, I think is how you say it. He played Wash on Firefly, is an alien, and he is such a good actor. comedy is very hit or miss for me because you can't force it. And but they are genuinely quite funny. Because yeah, there's been more than one thing I've stopped watching because you could tell they were trying way too hard to be funny and it just was not. So this is the, I believe, sort of a indented or kind of shadowy part on the fence here. Because I believe it kind of, the way fence post is shaped, yeah, it kind of sticks out, and then I believe with the shadow here it is meant to be the bit that's underneath the part that's sticking out. Sometimes kind of hard to see the 3D look to it until you get the whole area done, I find. So I did all that. But I believe I still have 4, maybe 5 sessions left this month. So as I said, I think reaching 80% shouldn't be a problem. Saying about Resident Alien, one of my favorite scenes was, ooh, that was totally not the right thread. I don't know what I was doing there. Anyway, the kid says to the alien, "I know you are, but what am I?" And the alien's saying, "No, you're not understanding me. I am saying that you are, you know, and I know you are, but what am I? Why do you not understand this?" He doesn't get it, which is funny because I hated that saying. I grew up when it was popular in the 80s, and I thought it was the dumbest comeback ever. But in that context, it was quite funny. Almost as bad as the "I'm rubber and you're glue." Oh yeah, like I said, making good progress today. I just blasted past 150 and didn't even notice because it was going so quickly. Okay. I think my favorite line from Resident Alien was, there's these 2 kids dealing with them. They know he's an alien and like nobody else in town does. And anyway, somebody makes a comment about the men in black, and the girl, she says, "They're not all men and they don't all wear black." And the alien says, "Well, then why do they call them that?" And she says, "Because it sounds better than people in clothes." So, like I said, I am sad that they canceled that. I was really enjoying. We haven't watched the finale yet, so I'm really hoping it doesn't end on a cliffhanger because that's always the worst. We were enjoying the Hawaii spin-off at NCIS, and unfortunately they ended on a cliffhanger. It did not get renewed after, I believe, its 2nd season. Maybe it was its 3rd, but anyway. Unfortunately, they did cancel it. I think because they started the NCIS Origins, which is young Gibbs when he first joins it, before it's even NCIS, when it's still called NIS for Naval Investigative Services, and not Naval Criminal Investigative Services. So that one got renewed for a 2nd season. I'm quite enjoying it. The character development is really good. And there's, of course, all the 80s references. And Mark Harmon, who was Gibbs in the original, is, he's not in it, but he does the voiceovers of the characters because, of course, it's being told, like, in flashback mode kind of thing. So he semi-retired from acting. So they didn't kill him off on the original series, but they did write him out. The character retired and the actor is, he's getting up there in years, and he played that character for a long time, like over 15 years. So keeping up that schedule can definitely be harder when you're in your 70s. Oops, darn it. I was trying to fix that, but I pressed the wrong one. That's okay. Stitch those now. My thumb selected more than I meant to. I know what I did. All right, go back up here to the top again. That one I grabbed by accident, which was way, way off. Oh, and I'm gonna check. That one's not very long either. All right. I should think surpassing 200 shouldn't be a problem today, as, like I said, there's not very many colors here. So it changes to some purple and then navy blue as I reach to where that peahen's tail intersects and covers up a bit of the fence post. So I'm going to work all around it and then, like I said, work on the tail later when I get there. But I don't think I'll be there for a while yet. I still have about 1,500 or so stitches to reach that. All right, so as I said, 2 threads here. I can juggle them both for now. I'll probably be finishing one off soon and adding another. So, oh, hang on a sec. I actually, did I do that? No, I didn't. I was thinking of doing it, but I didn't. Silly me. I think I'm going to tie this one off. Two threads here, but they're both kind of running out at the same time. That does happen sometimes. Check this other one here. That looks like full length pretty much piece there. I've had people ask, how many can you stitch in an hour? Well, it really depends because, as you've seen, less than an hour, and I'm about to pass 200 because there were very few colors here, but if it's a really high confetti area, it can take, I can make, you know, sometimes I've had where it's been so much confetti, I managed to do 80 in an hour, so it really varies. I think the most I did in an hour was close to 300, but I paid for that later. My arms were killing me, so I have to be careful not to overdo it. And that was where it was, I think, just 2 colors in an area, so. That'll take me well past 200, yep. Bright pink thread there trying to go along for the ride. All right, now hang on a sec again. This is not very long. I might just stitch with the shorter one first and be done with it. I think that is what I will do. I think I can get these 4 out of that. And that should be, that'll be it. go. I think I'm going to take a break after I do these that I've highlighted because I'm starting to feel the burn in my arms. I've learned the hard way to listen to that and take a break. I will really hurt later. And I actually did start at 0, so I managed to put up a pretty impressive number today, 220. Nice. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.